Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here today. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Kelly Harper. I'm the manager of our Career Center, and we're here to talk about career readiness. And hopefully this will all make sense as we go through it. But we're doing kind of a four-part series. And this first part is really to help you better understand the definition of career readiness, some of the things that have been developed around career readiness, behaviors that you'll want to look at, ways to develop these things on your own. And in the future, we're going to talk about some other pieces that build onto this, because the whole piece that we want to kind of really think about is what does it mean and how do you start getting ready for life after Cincinnati State? So what we're going to talk about is really defining career readiness. I want to give you an overview of the competencies and then talk a little bit about some of the upcoming sessions that we'll do around this topic. All right, so let's kind of start off with the first piece. I think I'm making the right assumption. You all can correct me if I'm wrong, unmute, yell at me, do whatever. But I think you're here because there's an expectation that you're going to earn a degree and you want to be able to be employable after graduation. And so what we want to do with this topic is help you better understand, are you on the right track to being career ready? It's not always just about the degree you get, but it's other sets of things that play a part into being career ready. And that's why we're going to talk about some of these competencies and what is all a part of that, because we want you to be ready to graduate and be successful in the chosen career that you're looking at. So let's kind of define career readiness and what it's all about. This is not something I developed on my own. This is something that has been vetted greatly across the nation through a group called NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And NACE developed this alongside of or with employers, trying to see what does a college graduate need to do to be ready to join the workforce, and how are they going to be successful when they do that. So when you look at this definition, it's really the foundation, which is demonstrate, I can't even talk today, bear with me, which to demonstrate requisite core competencies that broadly prepare the college educated for success in the workplace. So it's really those building blocks, the things that are going to make you successful. And what I do want you to realize is, like anything else, these are skills. There are things that you're going to need to kind of self-evaluate and figure out, am I good at it? Where do I need to work on it? And we're going to talk a little bit about what some of that looks like as we look at these definitions of the competencies. So let's kind of dig in. Again, this was really developed by NACE, this career readiness competencies, and it was developed to give people benchmarks, to be able to look at how do you launch a career successfully. And again, these are focused on soft skills, things that aren't always taught in classes that you may be aware of. But when you look at some of these things, you may start realizing, oh my gosh, they really are teaching me this in class, or I'm getting these experiences in things that I do with TRIO or things that I do with other programs on campus. So NACE focused on 8 career competencies of a successful employee. And these range from a little bit of everything. And let's kind of look at those. But before, let me kind of show you a little quick video that gives you kind of an overview of what these are. And can everybody hear first before I? Oops, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can't hear the video.
Okay. Let me change a setting real quick and make sure we'll start it over. Oops.
When employers are hiring interns or entry-level employees, they are looking for students that are career ready. Now, you're probably thinking, what is career readiness? Career readiness means that a student has attained and can demonstrate the desired competencies for a successful transition from college to the workforce. Now, those desired competencies are transferable skills that are needed no matter the industry or field one pursues. The competencies are compiled by a professional association by the name of the National Association of Colleges and Employers, otherwise known as NACE. NACE surveys thousands of employers and identifies 8 core competencies that are required for graduates to prove that they are career ready. While you are in college, your focus is to work on obtaining and developing these core competencies and understand how to articulate those to the employer. Employers want to know not only that you developed competency skills, but also how you apply them through your clubs and organizations, your part-time jobs, your internship and field experiences, or your in-class work, and how that will apply to the job that you want in the future.
So again, you start seeing these things that come up in interviews, like tell me about a time when you had to deal with conflict. These are the things that you're starting to get prepared for as you go through your classes, through your work experiences for that next level. So again, when we're starting to define these competencies, these are things that are skills. And there's a process to developing skills. We're just not born and all of a sudden we're great at everything. There are things that we have to learn to do better. Like, let's think about that question. Tell me about a weakness. Well, we want to make sure that we're addressing that in an interview question, but overall, we're trying to change those things. So if we have an issue around time management, we can't just say, I'm going to just stick with the way I am, and I'm just going to be late to class, late turning in papers, those kind of things. We have to work at changing those things. And that sometimes takes a little bit of time. So as you look at ways to develop a skill, these are some things to kind of think about. Accept frustration, because it's going to happen that you're going to do some things where you mess up, and that's okay. That's part of the learning process. Also, as you look at these competencies, think about where your desired level you want to do and where you want to attain. Focus sometimes on one skill at a time. Break it down into some smaller steps. Does this sound like goal setting in a way? Very much so. And make commitments, sometimes putting things on the calendar. If it's to look and research more, or if it's to actually practice something, those are ways to really kind of, again, build those skills. All right, so again, we looked at some of these competencies: the professionalism and work ethic, communication, critical thinking and problem solving, teamwork and collaboration, digital technology, leadership, global and intercultural influence, and they've actually changed that a little bit, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, and then career management. And these are all key pieces to building your professional competencies. All right, so as we approach this, what I want to do today is I want to talk about the definition of the competency, behaviors that someone exhibits as part of this, and then for you to think about ways to develop. And again, this is not going to be an exhaustive list. We'll probably dig a lot deeper into some ways to do and tools in our next session, but I want you to start thinking about ways to develop these skills. So let's kind of kick it off with professionalism. And again, you can kind of see I've tried to do some color coding here so it would make sense. So we're looking at that definition: knowing work environments. Knowing work environments differ greatly, understand and demonstrate effective work habits, and act in interest of the larger community and workplace. This is how they are defining professionalism. So when we look at it, some of those behaviors that somebody might have, there's accountability, there's a personal brand, a positive personal brand. And let's kind of talk about that one in particular for just a second. Positive personal brand: somebody thinks well of you. They think that your work is done well. They can count on you. You're not somebody that is just doesn't show up. They can't count on. There's a lot of things that go into what's considered personal brand. Being present and prepared. So think about, again, as you look at some of these behaviors, you're starting to learn those now and you're trying to perfect those. Let's just that being present and prepared. How are you doing that right now? Are you showing up to class? Are you turning assignments in on time? Yes, you all have gone through a lot of pressure over the past 2 years with a pandemic? How have you adapted to make sure that your personal brand isn't being hurt in those avenues? Also, like understanding how to prioritize projects, accomplish goals, meeting goals and expectations, attention to detail. These are part of the pieces that go into that professional behavior. So let's kind of think again. This is, again, not an exhaustive list, but ways to develop that. So develop a professional image. Okay, let's say I don't know what that really means. So maybe what I want to do is research and find out what does it, further elaborate on what professionalism means, looking more in depth at that, reading books, articles, Googling, what does it mean to be a professional? Those are things that I want to start understanding. Also, something you can do on a regular basis is that work habit. Like, are you, kind of checking what needs to be done today, 2 days away, 4 days away, 10 days away? Are you planning out your work so that you're not being stressed all at once? And some of you have heard these things in FYE about time management and planning. The study piece, I think they've used this where, kind of you listen first, then you kind of record your notes, you look at it in a different manner. So you kind of chunk things in a different manner so that you're not having to cram all in one setting for a test. That's kind of some ways as you're starting to build this process that it'll translate into your career. Also, what defining integrity, what does that mean? And what does that mean in a professional setting? Being a problem solver. Sometimes people will say, well, when you come to people with an issue or a problem, you need to have some ideas of how it could be solved. Maybe they're receptive to that, maybe they're not, but it gives you that chance to step back and think about, how would I particularly solve this problem? Resiliency, being able to bounce back from issues and problems, being self-aware, building relationships. These are all the things that start going into ways to develop professionalism. And I'll kind of stop here for just a second. Any questions or thoughts around professionalism? And feel free to unmic and do whatever you need to do, or put it in the chat. All right, let's go on. Let's look at communication. And I'm trying to kind of run through these a little bit faster than the last one, but clearly and effectively exchanging the exchange of information, ideas, facts, perspectives with persons inside and outside of organization. This is huge. This is one of the things that if you had to poll employers over and over again about what some of their big issues are, this would be one that keeps coming up. Oh yeah, and Regina just popped in with, a lot is expected of an employee in a workplace today. That is so true. And that's why we're trying to kind of address this, so you're aware of what's going to be those expectations. So thank you, Regina, for adding that. I appreciate it. So when we look at behaviors of communication, the importance of demonstrating verbal, written, nonverbal body language and abilities, think about how you're interacting with people that you email, like your faculty members, responding to pieces. One of my all-time favorite stories was one of our faculty members got very upset because a student kind of reached out to him and said, "Hey, dude, could you help me?" And they felt kind of offended by that. "Don't call me dude." Like, they just felt it was very unprofessional. So think about how you are coming across as part of your personal brand. Also, this communication is also listening, taking time, learning persuasion skills, learning influencing skills. It's communicating in an organized manner. It's a framework. There are a lot of different pieces that go into this. And again, remember, these are behaviors. Now let's think about ways you can work on the ways to develop. So we can always, I myself can always continue to learn to do things in a better manner. So reading things, refreshing yourself on, this is why we take English 101. This is why we do speech. These are all things that help us continue to perfect this communication piece. Also, working on our listening skills. That's one thing I think, if you all kind of agree with me, and we spend most of our time listening rather than speaking or writing, but from an educational standpoint, we spend more time in those type classes than we do in a listening class. Most of us have never taken a listening class. It's not in listening 101. So we are just, there's an assumption that we know how to do it. So again, we need to work on that piece. Also, problem solving and decision making. This is a huge piece because as you're out in the workplace, you're having to communicate information about projects you're working on, information about things that are going on with your organization. What's the proper way to do it? How do you make sure people understand it? Lots gets lost in translation. So again, these are things to continue to develop. That emotional intelligence, understanding how others are going to interpret things. All right, let's talk about critical thinking and problem solving. You're starting to see some themes as you look at these. There's some interconnection. Problem solving keeps coming up in the various things that we talk about because it's so important. So if we think about critical thinking, it's the identify and respond to the needs based upon understanding of a situation, context, and logical analysis of relevant information. So behaviors that someone has, make a decision and solve problems using sound, inclusive reasoning and judgment. It's not just about me, but what is going to be some of the impact if I do something. So it's trying to see beyond ourselves. Also gathering information, analyzing information, and also thinking about diverse backgrounds, why things are going to happen, making sure you fully understand what the issue or the problem is. Also sometimes being proactive and thinking about what's going to happen steps before. There's some people that are really good at this. They can kind of see the see the long distance and can kind of think of those things. For some of us, we have to work at it a little bit harder. Like, okay, if I do this, what's going to happen? It's like a chess move. If I move this piece, what's going to happen 5 steps down the road that's going to get me into trouble or make me lose the game or not get to the finish line. Also being able to accurately summarize, interpret data, information, also biases. We're seeing that in a great fashion today about, this piece of information, that piece of information. We're having to learn, is it true? Is it not true? Why is somebody saying this? Trying to understand the backgrounds and why information is being given to us. Also being able to take that information and communicate it, recognizing different sources, backgrounds, people's interpretation, and then thinking about how fast we always have to do this in this faceted environment that we live in today. So things, again, that you can start doing to work on it. Think about topics in a critical manner, like work on a topic. You don't have to have all the answers, but like a topic that is controversial. Think through, why is one person saying this? Why is one person saying that? And try to look at it from a different perspective. Also, if you can think about different arguments, like if we're going to try to do this project, what are some of the things that might happen? Why would people be against doing something? Start kind of thinking what some of those alternatives might be. If you are looking at a situation or looking at a piece of information, maybe try to look at the strength of the argument or the weakness of the argument. Also notice implications that there might be behind a statement. These are ways to start that critical thinking and problem solving, ways to develop your skill at being able to do this. So teamwork and collaboration. Build and maintain collaborative relationships to work effectively toward common goals while appreciating diverse viewpoints and shared responsibilities. So thinking about, again, you hear that listening piece, understanding, asking appropriate questions without interrupting. So being able to have that interaction with people, making them feel comfortable. What you kind of see a lot in this is it's about others, trying to manage conflict, trying to respect diverse personalities, and then sometimes understanding why people may or may not be responding. You're going to know as you start looking at people and personalities, you've got some that are extroverted, some that are introverted. Extroverts talk and they get their energy from being able to talk, brainstorm, interact. An extrovert does, or an introvert does not. They get their energy from inside. They get their energy from thinking about things. And then once they've had a chance to formulate their opinion, then they are able to talk. So as you're approaching these working relationships in these groups, understanding people's perspectives helps. Also, communication styles. Some people would rather have it written out. Some people would rather talk about it. So what's going to be the best? And then how do you manage bringing that all together? Because you know what it's like to work on a good team and a bad team, work with fun people, bad people. There's lots of different things that go into it. Understanding people's strengths, their weaknesses, what's going to maybe set them off, on a good day, bad day. Also just trying to bring in these pieces to collaborate. So things that you could start doing, and part of why we make you do teamwork and all those things is so you can start building those skills. So embrace it, right? Embrace the crazy. Think about how you contribute as a team member. Also think about it as how it's going to interact for your personal growth. As you're doing this, are you starting to know people personalities? Are you starting to understand how they tick, how they want to be approached, what their world is like? Some people have lots going on. Some people may or may not have lots going on. So understanding what's going on, the challenges that they lead. Sometimes you need to step up and be the leader of the group. Sometimes you need to be the participant. So think about where your role is in that. And then this is a great piece as you start understanding forming, storming, norming, and performing. These are the phases of a team or a group. You can kind of see this in sports. And I'll pick on, let's pick on the Bengals because it's been pretty easy to do. They've had to bring in new personnel, new staffing, all various things. So their growth isn't going to be quick and spontaneous. They've had to develop talent, this forming, getting the group together, the storming, like trying to figure out how it's all going to work. Then kind of the norming is, okay, we're all together moving in the right direction, which is now we're starting to see performing, right? So there's some time that is built into that. Groups and teams don't just happen all at once. Digital technology, understanding and leveraging technologies to enhance efficiencies, complete tasks, and accomplish goals. I never thought I would be doing a webinar like this 2 or 3 years ago. We felt like things needed to be in person. We didn't really have great technology to be able to do these kind of events. And then we had a pandemic, and that rocked a lot of people's world, including mine. I had never been on a Zoom. I didn't know the different pieces. I was forced to learn a new technology and try to integrate it with things that we were doing. And that is something you all have had to experience and do. So what we had to learn to do, we all had to learn this new skill, navigating the change, learning this new technology. We had to think about how is it going to make us more efficient, effective, to complete tasks. There's so many things that we had to learn as part of this. So how did we all do it? For you, like depending on what the technology is, some of you've never used computers before. You're having to learn the basics. Some of you are now having to do presentations. So you're having to learn design. You're having to learn how to effectively communicate as you put this information out there. So again, it's taking these themes, breaking them down into smaller pieces. If it's a PowerPoint, I'm going to start learning to design. I'm going to start learning to create. I'm going to start learning to do some different things. I may even take some classes or watch some YouTube videos to help me understand what I'm doing. God bless YouTube videos because they are helpful in so many different ways to be able to help and get you on the right track. And you don't even have to sometimes watch the whole thing. It's just let me get that nugget that will help me get through this piece. So Cornell University defined digital literacy, and this is something we all have to kind of keep in mind, is the ability to find, evaluate, utilize, share, create content using information technologies and the internet. This is a huge piece of what it takes to be a professional today and be career ready. So again, keep working on these skills. Leadership. We all want to have some role in leadership, and that is something that's considered to be a part of this career readiness, recognizing and capitalizing on personal team strengths to achieve and organize goals. Leader doesn't always mean that you are titled leader. Sometimes it is leadership in terms of getting a project to fruition. Sometimes it's leadership in just getting us this day to go in the right manner. Sometimes there's issues that go on and you just need somebody to step up and say, here's how we're going to handle it and how we're going to do it. So when you think about behaviors, it's inspiring, persuading, motivating others outside again of ourselves, leveraging resources, innovative thinking, role models, inspiring, having trust in somebody, planning, initiating, managing, completing, evaluating projects. These are behaviors. When we look at some of the ways to start developing those, pretty easy and simple to do, right? Learn about different leadership styles. That's an easy one. And try to figure out, where do you fit in? Because there are different ways that people lead and what's comfortable for them. Also think about how you're going to develop and continue to grow your leadership style. This is a question that typically comes up in a lot of interviews. What's your leadership or management style, depending on what you may get into? And so if you don't know how to answer that question because you don't really know that much about yourself, these are things that you want to start working on now so that you're able to kind of understand. It's not just being able to answer the question, but when it comes down to really truly doing this, what's your comfort zone? How do you do this? What really works for you? And how does it impact others? Also, think about how you're going to start taking on leadership roles and being able to delegate work and motivate others. And also understand the difference between leadership and management, which there are some differences to that. This is the one I talked about earlier, where we kind of indicated there's some change in the language. The global and intercultural fluency, they really are kind of focusing more on equity and inclusion in the definition. So it's that demonstrated awareness, attitude, knowledge, and skills required to equitably engage and include people from different local and global cultures, engage in anti-racist practices that actively challenge the system, structures, and policy of racism. So you can kind of see over the past year how this has really kind of come to the forefront. But things to think about, it's soliciting, it's understanding different backgrounds, perspectives, experiences. We all have different experiences that we bring to the table. I was with an individual last night who works in an art museum, but grew up in poverty. She did not have a working toilet in the home that she grew up in. And to see the changes in the work experience and the life that she has created for herself, she said it was very difficult. She had no earthly idea that others didn't live that way. She thought everybody lived like she did. So she grew up in a very different manner, and it has impacted the way she views the world. So again, we're looking at trying to understand differences and why people's perspective and thinking. As you look at trying to develop this competency, learn about different cultures and backgrounds. Empathy is a huge piece. You don't always have to agree, but you have to try to empathize and understand. Interact with different cultures and backgrounds. Attend cultural events, because it gets us out of our comfort zone, but it gives us a chance to see what it's like for somebody else. And those are simple and easy things to do. And then finally, career management, defining that, because this is kind of almost the overall arching theme. Like, as we look at these competencies, we're not going to, again, be perfect as we graduate from Cincinnati State. They're going to be things we continue to work on, but it's really trying to think about, how do I start getting myself successful from a career management perspective so that I can grow, I can develop new skills. I'm not just stuck in one particular job for the rest of my life. So we want to proactively develop yourself through the career, your own personal and professional learning, your strengths, your weaknesses, navigating career opportunities, networking to build relationships, both in and outside of an organization. These are things to kind of think about, showing the awareness of your own strengths and where you may need to do development, identifying areas for continual growth, just having a curiosity to seek and learn. Leverage relationships. Who do you know that you know? It's sometimes just having some conversations with them. Sometimes even just kind of stepping away from, here's what I'm doing right now, to how can I do better? Or what's going on? What are the trends in this profession right now that I need to be aware of? Embrace opportunities. I have a lot of people that say, if you say yes, it opens the door to a lot of different things than if you had said no to it. So think about how you do that. So let's think about some ways to develop this. One of the things that you might want to think about is using self-assessments to help better understand yourself. Like, one of the tools that we use in the Career Center is called U-Science. And U-Science looks at your aptitudes, and it gives you a lot of feedback about who you are and why you have certain strengths in this area. It also gives you some ways to think about how do you work on those weaknesses. So if you understand yourself better, your interests, your skills, your attitude, your abilities, that starts helping you kind of define direction and which way you need to go. It also lets you look at some of those competencies for the job that are technical versus soft and see where you may need to learn and grow and develop. Seeking mentors and people that are within your profession, both inside an organization and outside of an organization. That's why professional associations are a great place to help benchmark, build friends, build relationships, because it gives you people to connect with, to go with, to hear and think about things in a different manner. Maintain your reputation. Who do you know that you know? I literally got a call yesterday from somebody that I hadn't seen in 16 years. Actually, she had been at Cincinnati State before I had started working at Cincinnati State, and we left. And she was networking, she's moving back to the area. I hadn't seen her in 16 years, but she thought enough of me to call and pick up the phone to kind of reach out as she was networking. And I was able to give her some resources to help her as she started thinking about coming back to this area for work. Also, continue to build those networks both in and outside. So these are, again, ways to start thinking. And you all may not know exactly yet what a network is, but one of the things you can start thinking about, what are some of the professional associations that are in this area? A lot of them allow students to come to meetings, to sessions at no charge, because they want to help build their profession. And so if you reach out to them and you start building those connections, call the president of that local association and say, hey, I'd like to know when your next meeting is. I'm a Cincinnati State student. I would love to connect. This starts helping you open doors. And most of the times, if you think about job searches, people would rather hire people they know as a given commodity as opposed to people they don't know. So you're building relationships to help you with job search, connections, mentoring, all those various pieces. All right, so I'm going to go back again to kind of revisit this. How do you develop a skill? And these are, again, the steps to kind of think about, set goals, accept frustration, focus on one skill at a time, think about what some of those desired performance levels are. Put it on a calendar, commit to it. If it's something like today I'm going to Google these things for half an hour and I'm going to read some articles. Those are simple, easy things that you can do. I wanted to show you this quick little video because I thought this was kind of cute, and it kind of restates kind of why it's important to work on these skills. And this is an individual that is trying to learn to dance. So I'm going to just play this and let you kind of see it.
Esa chica que me tiene arrebatado, que me tiene medio loco, que ya estoy enamorado. Quizás serán sus ojitos, o tal vez su caminar, o quizás esas cositas que en su casa.
So what do you think? From that beginning to what he was able to do at the end, it came from practice. It was not a natural talent. He wasn't able to do it in the beginning, or at least not very well, but it took practice to work on that skill. And you could see the results of some of the practice. So committing to doing something, working at it, it doesn't just come naturally. You've got to build it in to do that. So as you think about all of this, I want to kind of reflect a little bit on how we kind of approach things in the Career Center. We focus it around what we call the career planning process, and it's around self-assessment, exploring careers, making decisions, gaining relevant experience, building networks, and marketing yourself. So again, these different pieces of working on your career readiness falls into a lot of these different different areas. You're always welcome to come and schedule time one-on-one to talk about this with somebody in the Career Center. We're happy to help you with assessments. We're happy to help you kind of start connecting, looking at options, helping you research what are some of those professional associations that I need to be involved in. And along the way, we hope that you are building relevant skills, not just from a classroom perspective, but also this soft skills perspective. So a couple of things that we've got going on in the future that we're going to focus again a little bit more around these, and these are upcoming sessions with TRIO. We're going to be doing more looking at the tools for career readiness and planning, delving a little bit deeper into that. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about youth science, ways to kind of get prepared with all of these different things. We're also going to look at creating plans and thinking like an employer, and then also delving into why experience matters. And I think you can kind of start understanding why experience matters as you think about these things. And experience isn't just co-ops, internships, clinicals, which are great. They are also some of the things that you do in class, outside of class, what you get involved in. Those are the things that help build those experiences for you. And then finally, I'm going to open it up right now to any questions that anyone might have. So please unmute, let me know, go in the chat, whatever makes life easier so we can answer questions. Did it make sense to you? Any of the TRIO folks that make sense? Regina, do you have any comments you want to make or anything you want to share with the group? All right, then we're going to call it a day. Definitely make sure that you visit the Career Center webpage, because we have a lot of information in terms of that career planning process, resources that you can do virtually. We've got mock interviews that you can do, virtual job shadow that you can access. There's a lot of tools and resources under those phases of career exploration and career planning. Regina, did you unmute?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So, no, I was just going to say this was a very good overview. And again, so many moving pieces and components related to successful career planning and career experiences. So I hope that you can have taken some notes of some things that you need to do better or differently, and will join us in future sessions, as Kelly has outlined, and also share this opportunity with others, because this is, has been customized for us, and it's a great opportunity to learn more about your career, and so you can be better prepared, because some of you have not done your co-ops yet, or you're currently doing your co-ops, and this is a good baseline starting point, so that you can be competitive and ready to get out there in that workforce. So thanks so much, Kelly and the Career Center, for your time and knowledge today.
Thank you all. And I don't want you to be fearful about any of this. That's why we kind of try to do some of this, is so we take the fear out of it and help you kind of start thinking of ways to navigate this in an easy manner. So do not be afraid of anything. That's what we're here for, is to kind of help you through that. So again, you are also welcome to make one-on-one appointments with us. You can do that through Starfish, or you can call the Career Center. All of our contact information is on the website. So have a great day, and thank you all for being here. And I will put this recording out so that you all can access. I'll get that to Regina, so we've got a place to let you all see that for future information. And I will also follow up and send you just a general handout that has the information about career readiness, just the broad information. Okay. Everybody have a great day, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.